Washer just not getting the job done?
Fred's Appliance has top-rated Bosch dishwashers on sale.
Plus, they all come with factory warranties backed by Fred service professionals.
We have thousands of dishwashers on sale and in stock.
Bosch is the #1 brand of dishwashers, and Fred's has them ready for pickup or delivery.
Bosch has a huge variety of dishwashers. You can count on all of them to quietly deliver dishes that sparkle.
Extra large loads of dishes are no problem. Bosch dishwashers have features like a third rack and adjustable racks that can easily handle tall pots or pitchers.
Let the appliance experts at Fred's help you find the right dishwasher for you.
After all, we've been answering appliance questions since 1962.
Need to finance? No problem. Pay no interest when paid in full in 12 months at Fred's Appliance.
Fred's Appliance, 93 South, 5 minutes south of Brooks and Reserve.
Fred's Appliance. When Fred's advertises it, we've got it. Get your new appliance today.
Don't let your joint pain stop you from doing the activities you love. At Missoula Bone & Joint, we are fortunate to have an experienced group of surgeons who specialize in total joint replacement of the shoulder, hip, knee, ankle, and hand. Our hip replacement surgeons use a variety of approaches: anterior approach, posterior approach, superior approach, to best serve the individual needs of our patients. Call Missoula Bone & Joint to schedule your appointment and discuss the best treatment option for your joint pain.
The University of Montana is the host venue for the Pacific Northwest Collegiate Lacrosse League Conference Championships. 10 of the best lacrosse teams from the Northwest, including the University of Washington, Oregon, Gonzaga, and other schools and their fans, will all be in Missoula April 26th through the 28th. Your Grizz lacrosse team is looking to reclaim the conference championship and needs your support. Quarterfinal games are Friday, April 26th, semifinals Saturday, April 27th, and the finals Sunday, April 28th. Full schedule will be at grizzlax.com. Admission to the individual games is $10, or you can buy a weekend pass for $20. All games will be held in Washington Grizzly Stadium.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmers State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmers State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, member FDIC.
Dragon Hollow has been a Missoula favorite for nearly 20 years, and this May they are making it even better. New play equipment and flooring will invite and fully accommodate children of all abilities. Won't you help save the Dragon? Over 2,300 volunteers are needed May 15th through the 19th, as Dragon Hollow becomes an even more welcoming space for everyone in our community. Your donations are also needed to help save the Dragon. For more info on volunteering or donating, please visit SaveTheDragonMT.com.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television. I like football! Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. The NFL draft is 2 hours away. And a Game 6 in the Golden State LA Clippers series. It is Tutel Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for spending some of it with us on your radios. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us online, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream live to the station, no matter where you are. It's that dandy. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you'd like to give us a call, we welcome that as well. 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We are going to start with the NFL Draft, which we will shoot you out to Nashville, Tennessee for live coverage of the draft tonight and all weekend long here on ESPN Radio. But we will talk about that. Not so much like, mock drafts and all that. You can get that wherever, but certain fits for certain teams, maybe with some of the things we don't expect out of the happenings here in the first round today. We also, in about a half an hour, are going to welcome in our friend Josh Jones. He's from over there at the City Life Center, and he is significantly part of the group that puts on the Garden City 3-on-3. Been a big 3-on-3 weekend here this week, Coulter. So Garden City 3-on-3 happens every year at the Southgate Mall here in Missoula, and he will come in and tell us all about that, so we will get into that. We will certainly get into some basketball. The Rockets finish off the Utah Jazz last night. The Golden State Warriors do not finish off the Los Angeles Clippers in a home game in a Game 5, so that series goes back to L.A. for Game 6. We will also, at the top of the hour, have our ESPN Roundtable with Oisin Shaffery and Jason Brown. Jason Brown, the head men's tennis coach at the University of Montana, and Oisin Shaffery, one of 6 freshmen, a great freshman class at the University of Montana, and also from Ireland. So regardless of what you think about tennis, and by the way, there's a lot to think about tennis right now. It's going really well. Montana made it into the Big Sky Conference Championships for the 29th consecutive time this year. So fantastic down there. They played there this morning. We'll get into the results of that. But also, it's just nice to hear people from Ireland talk. Like that's I don't just read me the instruction manual from a cell phone. That's all I need. Just let me hear it, So anyway, it was great to have those guys in here and really fun to talk to. So there you go. Show Outlook brought to us by Lithia Ford of Missoula. And don't forget, people, to check us out on YouTube. We're on the YouTube channel, the stream, up and running, live stream on YouTube. You just search Tutel Nuanez on YouTube, and you can interact with us there. You can talk to us in real time on that little deal there. And, if we're able to attend to it, we will also try and talk back to you, at least maybe in the breaks or what have you. So go check us out on YouTube. Coulter, how you doing over there, bud?
It's actually interesting. I had such an epiphany after we talked to Oisin Shaffery because I have completely irrationally disliked everything British my whole life. I found British people to be obnoxious. I don't think they're funny. I don't like British music. I'm not into any of it. But there's never been any reason why. Then I did 23andMe, and I found out that I am exactly half Irish, which totally makes sense. It was the least surprising of my 23andMe revelations. I knew that I had 2 sets of grandparents that were straight, from Ireland.
The thing that's crazy
a generation
is
or 2 removed.
I expect the other 50% to be Equatorial Guinea. But there it is. There you are.
Portuguese, I had all sorts of crazy stuff in there. Here's what I'm saying, though. I listened to Oisin Shaffery talk about how he, he's a little hesitant around his teammate from the UK. It took him a little while to get to like the Brit. Now he likes him a lot. But maybe it's just entrenched in me. Maybe it's just in my blood. Maybe that's just exactly why I've had this apprehension around the Brits for so long.
That is asinine.
I love when you use that word. It's actually the only big word you use that I understand.
Coulter, the NFL Draft is coming up in under 2 hours from now. We will send you out again to Nashville for the start of the draft. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the NFL Draft. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, more about some individual guys, but wanted to talk about maybe some guys where they fit, where they don't fit, what we think about them. And so just sort of team by team, we wanted to hit some teams that maybe some folks in this neck of the woods in the state of Montana will have interest in. Seattle, maybe Denver, maybe Minnesota. Of course, we're going to talk about Green Bay a little bit, and who knows? When Josh gets in here, he's a big Washington fan, talk about the Washington Redskins. So we'll see. But you start this thing off, Coulter, because you wanted to kind of do this thing about, who or fit types of deals, whether it's positional, whether it's individual guys, and where they should go. So you take the floor. You tell me where we want to go with this.
All right, let's start at the top.
Okay.
I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time.
Okay.
We have talked about Kyler Murray quite a bit on this show. And
not as much as most shows, actually.
No, actually not. Definitely not. And That's one thing I take pride in this show, is that we don't do the massive dilution of a topic. Instead, we give our acute and accurate and good points about it.
Yes.
And then don't let it just drown the entire rest of the show, right? We got a lot of range around here.
That's right. That's
the
right.
point is,
a
couple weeks ago, I guess actually you did a Kyler Murray segment when I was gone, and then I kind of had some follow-up thoughts when I came back. But I've been really thinking about this, and I really think that Kyler Murray has the biggest boom or bust potential of any player in the history of the NFL draft. And why I say that is because if the risk that the Cardinals are about to take actually works.
You feel very confident that they are going to take this
100%.
risk?
I think that they're already 50% into one of the biggest risks we've seen in the NFL. They already hired a guy who could not win in college.
Yeah, I don't know if they're 100% on Kyler Murray here, but I would go mid-90s for it for sure. And you're absolutely right. If you have Cliff Kingsbury, you have committed to a path that you can't undo for some time.
So they hired Cliff Kingsbury because of the Sean McVay connections, blah, 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 but also because he's touched Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes, and all these guys are the hot names in the NFL right now. Cliff Kingsbury had an influence on them. We've already seen a lot of college offensive elements matriculate into the NFL. It's not necessarily this widespread trend as much as it is we've just incrementally seen certain concepts gain some momentum. And it gets more and more each year. And now I think that with the hiring of Cliff Kingsbury, if you hire Cliff Kingsbury as your head coach, regardless of if they actually do take Kyler Murray or not, which I think they will, you have set the bar that you are going to run a college-style system. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is just going to come up with his own version of an NFL system.
No.
They're going to run a run-pass option-based, spread concept-based system. And every quarterback that's come into the NFL has a learning curve on what he has to learn. That learning curve has gotten so much steeper in the last several years because so many of the premier programs run strictly college-style offenses. So when you go from Lincoln Riley's air raid spread at Oklahoma, look at how much Sam Bradford kind of struggled to acclimate to the NFL game. But he's just one of many, many examples. When you have to go from spread to pro style, there's just such a steep learning curve because there's so many more reads you have to make. It's just a completely different concept as a quarterback. In a spread, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's your guy? If you make the right read, someone's open every time. That's why these guys complete 75% of their passes, and Oklahoma's scoring 55 points a game. Kyler Murray is going to have the most distinct advantage entering the NFL of any quarterback ever in terms of his familiarity with the system. There's never been a quarterback that's been drafted number 1 that's basically going to get handed a version of his college playbook to run in the NFL. Now, that gap has gotten a lot different. It used to be guys coming out, especially like in the 70s and 80s, the offense they were running in college was much more similar to the offense they were going to go run in the NFL. That the gap has broadened quite a bit, especially because of just the.
But it had started to shrink back down to me.
It started to shrink back down because they're running so many college concepts
That's
now
right.
in the pros. Mm-hmm. But why has multiple Craig Bowl quarterbacks come from North Dakota State and Wyoming to be top 5 picks? Because they're running more similar stuff to what the NFL is at North Dakota State and Wyoming than what Oklahoma and Ohio State and Notre Dame is running. That could completely and utterly change tonight. If Kyler Murray can excel, then all of a sudden you have a guy that was probably not even going to play pro football to everybody's hanging on the last quarter inch of his measurements to see if he could even be a 3rd or 4th round pick to a 5'10" guy who's a Heisman Trophy winner. Both of those things used to just be kiss of death.
Yes.
Boom, number 1 pick. And if he's successful, you think that you got a steal. You truly changed the landscape of the NFL. Are the Cardinals going to go win the Super Bowl next year? I think almost certainly not, no matter what.
No.
But if Kyler Murray has any modicum of success, this is going to be – what do we know about the NFL? Everybody is just grasping so hard to find the next big thing. Look at this last offseason. If you had dinner with Sean McVay, you're getting interviews for head coaching jobs. That's going to be even more accelerated. Lincoln Riley is going to be, getting called by everybody in the entire league. He already is. He already is. But think if that actually happens. If Kyler Murray is successful, now all of a sudden you got Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray back-to-back spread-style small quarterbacks that are automatically that are inserted starters / stars. It's going to change the whole thing. On the other hand, if Kyler Murray is too small, if he is not ready, if the Heisman Trophy continues to be this albatross where no quarterback that wins the Heisman can possibly do well, Baker Mayfield's already bucking that trend. But before that, most Heisman quarterbacks, they fall off in the league. Then all of a sudden, it could come crashing down harder than anything else. If you hired Cliff Kingsbury and he's just a complete disaster and Kyler Murray's a complete disaster, now all of a sudden you have one of the biggest busts in the history of the league. And I just think that the range here's the reason I say that I think it has the biggest chance for boom or bust is I don't think there's any middle. I don't think Kyler Murray is going to be an okay NFL quarterback. I think he's going to absolutely rip it up because of his systematic advantages, or he's going to fall completely flat on his face.
I agree with you. I don't see there being a lot of middle ground. Kyler Murray, the things that I like about Kyler Murray, or here's what I think. I think Kyler Murray is going to be really good. I think he's going to be really good. And the reason
do?
Yes, I do.
Why?
We know what we see out of him when it comes to his quickness and his feet and his just stop and start, his quick twitch, which is crazy. You think you need to be quick in the NFL? Try and play middle infield in Major League Baseball. And this kid is taken 9th overall to be a shortstop or whatever. You're talking about how fast.
Is he an outfielder? I thought he's an outfielder. Regardless, it takes massive speed.
And the ability to adjust on the fly. You're talking about 95-mile-an-hour fastball off the bat at 110 miles an hour, and you got to adjust right now to that. In any case, he has that, and that is just a natural gift. It's honed because he works his physical body, but you can't just go out there and figure that out. So people talk about, you can't learn 6'4". Well, guess what? You can't learn change of direction the way that Kyler Murray has it, nor can you learn top-end speed the way that he has it, quite frankly.
And reaction time, what you're saying is totally true.
But that stuff everybody knows.
Right.
The thing that I don't know if everybody really, truly understands is how legitimately good this kid's arm is, not just being able to wing it, but being able to hit his target. He throws dimes where he wants to and does it on the move all the time. He doesn't just have to sit there and plant his feet and to get the ball where he wants it to go. It goes where he wants it to go almost all the time, and that is, as we know, very important in the NFL, especially with smaller windows. Okay, we could use the catchphrases around here. That he has that ability to do that. You want to know the number one reason why I think he could be a bust? Because he's going to Arizona.
But Arizona has been good until just recently. Arizona's a good franchise.
It's not about the franchise. It's about this team right here, right now. Sure. Arizona has a very bad offensive line. And in one sense, he's sort of built for something like that because of how well he can move. But at the end of the day, he's a small guy who, if he gets caught, is going to pay a price for being caught. And that is a worry. So whether it is an injury-related thing or just the team around him is just not good, and or the coach who is, as you said, is certainly in the NFL unproven, I think I give Cliff Kingsbury a little more slack than a lot of people, but I understand.
But why?
He was okay at a place that should just be bad. Texas Tech has nothing.
But he's been okay for the duration of his coaching career.
What's his coaching career?
Well, he's an offensive coordinator, and they largely did not. They are largely underachieved when he's at Texas A&M.
He learned from Mike Leach.
Right.
Mike Leach was better than him at Texas Tech.
Right.
But wasn't there for that long.
Right.
And he came in there and did an okay job, but not a great job. But here's my issue. Here's my thing. Coaching in the NFL is just football. It's not just football, but it's significantly football. It's personality management.
Don't have to recruit.
Don't have to worry about NCAA
you also don't
violations.
get to recruit either.
Don't have to. No. Well, you kind of do. That's what's happening here.
Well, right, but you don't get to out-recruit Kyler Murray. You're with Kyler Murray. Like, if they draft Kyler Murray, it's Kyler Murray for 4 years, and if he sucks, you are absolutely screwed.
It's totally true, but that's also
you're going to be rolling with Drew Stanton.
it's your GM and it's you all together,
yep.
So it's a whole different deal. But my point is how much, if Cliff Kingsbury was somewhere else, would it have gone better for him? Possibly, maybe not. And by the way, I'm not sitting here saying that I think this guy's the second coming, because I don't. I think he's out of his depth. I really do.
Yep.
But I'm not sitting here going, no shot. There's no way this guy's can figure this thing out. Look at what he didn't do, and that I just basically I suspend judgment on Cliff Kingsbury, the coach, until I see something in the NFL which I can go, well, no. You were not cut out for this. Or, wow, okay, yeah, pretty good. I will say that he is. I think there's a lot of people who are upset. Not so much with Cliff Kingsbury, but sort of it ends up being directed at him because he leapfrogged a whole bunch of guys who have been putting in a lot of time and, frankly, with more success than him to do this thing. And because the trend has gone in this direction, he's got a job and they don't. And so that I understand, but I'm not a part of that. So it does not bother me, that particular part of it.
Oh, several different counterpoints.
Yeah.
First of all, I think that Cliff Kingsbury has the Arizona Cardinals job because there's several other guys that are spread gurus, so to speak. They didn't want to come to the NFL. Cliff Kingsbury is not the best spread guy. He's just the one that was the most willing, but also it's because he was the one that was the most expendable, because he's not tethered to the place he was at because he was mediocre at Texas Tech.
Well, he wasn't even at Texas Tech. He was at USC, where he never...
For 2 seconds, right.
Did it, yeah.
Another point. Mike Leach is the darling of the media because Mike Leach is hilarious and yada, yada, yada. I know Washington State won 11 games last year. It was an epic season for Washington State. They still only went to the freaking Alamo Bowl. They didn't do anything really of consequence besides get whipped in the Apple Cup and go to the Alamo Bowl. Find me a spread coach, and I'm not talking, spread's the wrong word. Find me an air raid coach, a guy that you're talking 4 wide all the time, throw the ball all over the place, with the exception of Lincoln Riley, that's ever been more than okay. You can't, because you run those sorts of concepts to bridge the gap.
I mean, Chip Kelly at Oregon was more than okay.
But that's not a spread. That's the thing. What Texas Tech and Oklahoma run is completely and utterly different than what Chip Kelly runs. Chip Kelly runs the spread option. They run the triple option out of the spread, and the reason Chip Kelly was so innovative is because they left the nose unblocked. That was
You don't think they're going to run spread option at Arizona with Kyler Murray?
It's RPO stuff, though. It's not read option. Kyler Murray was not a runner. Kyler Murray's not running the zone read like Chris Murray or Trey Anderson is at Montana State, or like Marcus Mariota or Jeremiah Masoli was at Oregon. Kyler Murray rushes for some yards when he gets out on the perimeter, or when he has an RPO play that breaks down and he takes off on his thing. You do not. I'll tell you this: if Arizona runs true read option with Kyler Murray taking on the defensive end, Kyler Murray will last maybe 6 games in the NFL.
Yeah.
Cam Newton's the only dude who can truly run the read option in the NFL. Look what happened to Robert Griffin. He ran it for a season and he was done. Russell Wilson, they did it for half a year and then they realized, well, we're going to kill Russ. We can't do this. Because, I mean, in the read option, you're leaving the DN unblocked and making the quarterback read it. You can get just a ton of quarterbacks in college that are more athletic than that guy. He can beat him to the edge. He can beat him to the corner. He can juke him in the hole. He can even run him over. that guy is a monster in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is going to eat the quarterback alive if you run the zone read at him. Regardless, that's inconsequential. What I'm saying is, and I'm not saying it's not possible to have it. I'm just saying, by and large, most of the places where the air raid spread has taken hold, and Oklahoma's the one that's kind of pushing this narrative aside, because Oklahoma's a premier program that can get premier players, and they run this system still. But mostly, this system came to be, well, first of all, with Mouse Davis and those guys at Portland State, who then basically took it. And, I mean, when Hal Mumme was at Kentucky, it's the schools like Kentucky who's in the SEC, they can't compete with Alabama, so they start running the spread. Texas Tech, they can't recruit with Texas and Texas A&M, so they start running the spread. And now it's just so much more widespread because it gives your quarterback so much less of a margin for error. But I just think that it's again, I think that this is truly feast or famine. This is truly boom or bust. I think it could take the NFL by storm. And I think Kyler Murray could be just this absolutely insane breakout star next year. I also think it could be absolutely disastrous too. It truly depends. The thing that's so interesting about it is we don't know.
We don't know. I just think my instincts are that Kyler Murray is a good to great quarterback whose bust potential is more about fit and obviously injury than it is about, he turns out to stink.
Well, last counterpoint, and this is why drafting quarterbacks from straight spread systems is so risky. I agree with everything you said about Kyler Murray being able to make every throw. I have no idea if he can make every read because I've never seen him make a read.
Right.
The only Kyler Murray does have the ability to improvise. When a play breaks down, he can get out on the edge. He can throw on the run. He can use his feet. That's all great traits for him. But as far as 1, 2, 3, get back to the other side of the field. Like you're on the right hash. You go 1, 2, 3, 3 reads, then you throw it to the guy that's running the deep out back to the fourth read. That's elite quarterback play in the NFL. I have no idea if he could do that because we've never seen him do it. Right. And that's another element of the mystery of this whole thing because he might be able to truly do it or he might not.
Well, and that's, we heard less than flowery things about his ability on the board and his ability to write, break down plays and that sort of thing. And it's hard to say because there's quite a bit of pushback on that report as well. So, but you assume that these guys have done their due diligence, that Cliff Kingsbury and everybody else has sat in there and, grilled him and gone through the things and that they got to feel pretty good about what they're doing there. But you're right. I mean, this is what it's built for, and I'll be interested to see where Josh Rosen goes.
So 23 minutes in on Kyler Murray, here we already are. But I got one more question for you. Now it already escapes me. Okay, move on.
All right.
I'll remember.
Who's a team that you want to look at in terms of what they need? I like the Giants at 6 just because I think they need a lot of things. Everybody's talking about quarterback. And if Dwayne Haskins is there, do you draft him or do you just keep trying to fill that thing up?
I don't think Dwayne Haskins is the answer to replace Eli Manning. I also think you have to replace Eli Manning.
You do. And here's the thing. Taking a quarterback, people think that if you take quarterbacks in back-to-back years or, 4 times in 6 years or something like that, that you're just the Cleveland Browns, that you're just out there throwing spaghetti at the wall, seeing what sticks, and trying, and have no real plan and so forth and so on. And by the way, the Giants have done a lot recently to make people believe they don't have a plan. But that said, I don't think it's insane to go multiple quarterbacks. I don't know if you want to go round one at quarterback, but I mean, the Patriots, right? They try and take a quarterback every single year, and that's been kind of a model, different places in the draft. But if you think you can get value and it's a position that's obviously always going to be crucial, then you go ahead and do that. And they do need to replace Eli Manning. Is Dwayne Haskins or Daniel Jones or one of these guys who's not Kyler Murray, who will presumably not be there, be quote-unquote the guy? Is he a franchise quarterback? I don't know. But do you bring him in anyway and see what you got and make a run at it with the understanding that the next year's draft class is also going to be pretty good with quarterbacks, it looks like.
So I think significantly better than this one.
Yeah. And so does that mean, well, no, we just sit here, we just hold tight, we get ourselves an offensive lineman, try and build this thing young, and hold out for another 4-12 season? Like, I don't think that's a great way to go either.
No, me neither. I just think it really depends on who is left, because I think that I think that if any of these 4 guys is left, Nick Bosa from Ohio State, Josh Allen from Kentucky, Quinnen Williams from Alabama, or Devin White from LSU, if any of those 4 guys is left, I think you're foolish to take Dwayne Haskins over any of those 4 guys.
Totally.
But then I think everybody after Haskins is much more of a risk. I mean, there's the Juwan Taylor kid from Florida who seems like a pretty solid prospect. He's offensive tackle. I think he has lower bust potential than almost anybody in the top 10 for sure. But like the Montez Sweat kid from Mississippi State, I mean, he's a guy that has good production. He absolutely freaked out at the combine. He ran a 4.41 as a 265-pound D end. But guys like that I'm always leery of because, I mean, again, he did have good production, but if I haven't ever heard of you before this process and you have that sort of athletic talent, well, what was going on?
Yeah.
And I think on down the line, I think the Rashawn Gary kid from Michigan is a little bit risky. I'm interested to get your thoughts on the Iowa tight ends, because I think those guys are impact players, but I don't think you can draft a tight end at number 6. I just don't. The DJ Metcalf kid from Ole Miss, I think he has huge bust potential just because he's another.
No.
You don't think he has bust potential?
No, yeah, no. I'm saying no. You cannot take.
You can't take him there, right?
No.
Right. And so then it's on down the line. I mean, the guy that I think that is the other guy that should be in the mix at that number 6 spot, but who's not because of a variety of reasons that we talked about a lot yesterday, is Ed Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
I take Ed Oliver over Dwayne Haskins all day, but for whatever reason, he is by no one's standards a top 10 pick right now.
The highest I've seen him is 8, but I've seen him as low as like 20 in the 20s.
Yeah, right.
One other team I want to talk about, Coulter, is the Seattle Seahawks. There's a big contingent of Seahawks fans, in the state of Montana.
Yep.
And they have 2 picks in this first round. They have their pick at 21, and then with the trade of Frank Clark, they have the Kansas City pick at 29 as well. I see, projections that say Ed Oliver's even going to be available at 21. The guy I would love to see the Seahawks go ahead and pick up is Byron Murphy out of Washington,
mm-hmm.
a local guy who they know all about from being around, and who has just such huge upside and can be a lockdown type of corner, and is, when you talk about a critical position on defense to try and get that sort of potential in there is great. Now, does he set up individually with what they want to do? I don't know, but I think it's a position that they could use a person, and especially with losing Frank Clark, they also need. There's 2 ways to sack the quarterback, right? You can sack the quarterback because you get somebody who beats their man and gets to the quarterback, or you got great coverage on the back end, and there's some time to be, to get there. You got to have both. I think Byron Murphy would be a nice guy, and obviously, I mean, if that's at 29, at 21, if Ed Oliver's available, I mean, you're almost forced into something like that, although I don't expect him to be there that late. But they do need, another edge rusher. And frankly, I mean, they've taken, 45 running backs in the last 3 years in the draft? I mean, they took 3 running backs with the, I think, 2nd, 4th, and 6th round picks 2 years ago. Then they went and got Rashad Penny last year with their 1st round pick. It's still unclear if they have a running back that they want to use. I'm not entirely sure what that has all been about. But, offensively, you got Russell Wilson, you got Doug Baldwin. That's about it. So there's some other guys who are, have been, obviously Tyler Lockett has been far better as a receiver than he was anticipated to be. He's not something like a Pro Bowl wide receiver.
He made the Pro Bowl last year, though.
But he's a returner, though. I mean, that's what he does.
Yeah.
So I think that they could use it all over the place there.
Packers still at 30? Is that right, or do they move up?
The Packers have 2. They have a 30. They have a 30th pick from a trade a year ago, and they're at 12 from their. I mean, their very mediocre season. I wish they were picking 30th because they had been to the NFC Championship game.
Okay, so they got 12. So how bad are you going to be screaming to pick Ed Oliver?
I mean, maybe
if he's up.
Here's the thing: I love Ed Oliver, but the defensive tackle position of Williams and Christian Wilkins. Daniels,
wait, time out. You're talking about the guys available?
Yeah.
Okay, I was mentioning the guys they have because they still have Mike Daniels, right?
They have Mike Daniels,
and he's great.
It's not a huge position of need, but what is a position? What they need more than anything in the whole wide world is to get after a quarterback. They couldn't get to a quarterback to save their souls. Again, they addressed some of that in free agency. 2 pass rushing free agents that they brought in from Baltimore, one in particular. But that's absolutely critical. And guess what? They don't have anybody to throw the ball to other than Devontae Adams. I do not want wide receiver in the first round for the Green Bay Packers.
DJ Metcalf.
But no.
That's who Kuiper's got. No. The Packers taking at 12.
I mean,
bust.
Probably not going to bust at wide receiver if 12's throwing you the ball. Probably not. Possible. You know what I would love? One of those Iowa tight ends.
That's what I was going to ask you next.
Oh, yeah.
You're into that?
Yeah.
Well, so here's the decision they're going to have to make because there's a chance that T.J. Hoskinson is still on the board at 12.
I just don't believe that's going to be true.
But there's a chance.
Yeah. He was there?
If he's there, though, but you could fill another need at 12 because I think Noah Fant will be available at 30.
If you have a tight end who can do both things, run catch, and block, you take that guy. That's what I think, because we think about tight ends all the time because of their fantasy production. But what made Gronk great? I mean, he was great anyways. Obviously, you're catching the ball, but he's one of the great blocking tight ends that there has been. You got to have as much help on the offensive line as you can get, but also production. If you can get a 2-for-1 in an elite tight end, and especially, you know, the guys I love. Who do the Colts take out of Notre Dame, the interior guard last year?
Quentin Nelson.
You said it yesterday, right? You never no guard ever goes in the top 10 unless it's like an absolute lockdown, and he was a Pro Bowler in his rookie year. If you have a tight end with that kind of talent, do it. Do it. If it's something that you need, just do it. Get the guys who you know can be great.
Totally, but that's the question is because I personally think Hoskinson is a really good prospect. I think Noah Fant has way more upside.
Well, maybe so.
I mean, he's a freak. I mean, his numbers were ridiculous at the combine.
And they go to the same school. How about that?
How about that? Those two plus George Kittle in the last 3 years at Iowa.
No kidding. I mean, what's going on there? Well, we know what's going on. That's what they do there. Hey, shocking. We're late. Quick break. On the other side, Josh Jones in studio with us. Garden City, 3-on-3. Next.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes in a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and on Highway 83 in Sealy. The best deals on the coolest machines and all the accessories are at Kurtz Polaris and KurtzPolaris.com. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris. Offer valid in U.S. through 4/30/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate. Hey, Tutel and Nuanez is on from 4 to 6 every afternoon on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
We also know that not everybody can listen to all 2 hours every single day.
Well, they should, Coulter. I mean, what else do you have to do? Take off work early, drive home slow, and sit in your driveway for 70 minutes to get the entire show.
Here's the thing. We've made it easy for everybody to listen to the show every single day whenever it's convenient for them by podcasting every show.
Well, that's nice of us.
You can listen to the full Tutel and Nuanez every single day on iTunes, the TuneIn Radio app, Spotify, and Podbean. Tutel and Nuanez, the podcast, available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. Montana is getting closer to becoming one of the first states to legalize sports betting. Governor Steve Bullock is considering measures that would allow residents to wager on sports, while Indiana and Iowa lawmakers are scheduled to approve their own versions as early as Wednesday. Barring a veto, those three could be the first states to approve sports betting this year, joining 6 others that moved quickly last year after the U.S. Supreme Court allowed it nationwide.
In breaking news this afternoon, Danny Sprinkle added 2 assistant coaches to his coaching staff at Montana State for the men's basketball program. Sean Durden, who spent a long time as one of Brad Hughes' assistants during a previous tenure, he'll be coming back to Bozeman. And Chris Haslam, who has served on Hughes' staff as well as Brian Fish's staff, he will be retained and remains in his current role as a Bobcat assistant.
Mark Adder will become the next activities director for the Bozeman School District after spending nearly 3 decades in Colstrip. Adder and Bozeman School District 7 announced that yesterday. Beginning in July, Adder will replace retiring Jerry Reisig as AD for both District 7's middle schools and Bozeman High School. Adder will be in charge of activities and athletics at Gallatin High, set to open in 2020.
And finally, Missoula Sentinel. They are the Missoula City champions in softball. They beat Hellgate 10-0 on Tuesday. Total run differential 38-1 in the city championship games this year.
Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation.
Like me against you on the golf course, 38-1.
Yeah, you're the one getting 38s.
It's a 3 and then it's an 8.
Per our conversation the other night, I'm going to write a tally on the board outside so that everybody that works with us and everybody that listens to the show realizes the accuracy of the fact that you will not beat me at anything this summer, especially golf.
Okay. But no Trump scores out of you.
No.
We're counting strokes.
Let's go. Okay. Count them up.
We welcome in Josh Jones to the show. Hi, Josh. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. Josh Jones.
I mean, I enjoy the little golf banter, but, you know, walking with you in here, I saw you might be a little injured, and I heard here Coulter pulled the whole office boss thing and stepped on a plate right out getting out of bed and cut his foot.
Let's put it like this. Coulter and I, whoever wins the game of golf, is not that consequential. Okay?
Yeah.
Nobody's taking any awards home between the two of us.
One of you sings to the other, do you want to build a snowman today, right?
Josh Jones, the executive director down at YFC, and also the City Life Center over there just off of Russell. What's the address of the City Life Center?
It's 1515 Fairview Avenue.
Okay, Fairview. But if you're, it's very close to the fairgrounds and sort of in the V that is made between Brooks and Russell. If you're kind of curious about the location of it, the City Life Center, an awesome place you're going to hear a little bit more about. But part of that, or why you're here today, the Garden City 3-on-3, which you put on every single year, a great event in this town, been going on. I mean, how long? How many? 20 years we up to?
Well, we're at the silver anniversary, so let me just text your wedding.
25?
Hey, great job.
Good?
That was impressive, Ryan.
That's great.
Yeah,
Ryan's going to be living in the Philippines by the time he's been married for 25 years. Or he might be unmarried if he's not living in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's a silver anniversary. So
all right.
25 years. I think we've been, the YMCA had it before us, YMCA, and then they gave it over to us. I think it's been, it's got to be close to 10 years now that we've been running it.
Definitely. It's been going a long time, and it's a really fun event. We were talking about Ryan Bradshaw was in here earlier this week.
Oh, yeah,
he's running a big 3-on-3 tournament that's sort of like on the competitive side and the money side of 3-on-3, and we'll get into the benefits of this 3-on-3 tournament. But interestingly, how 3-on-3 in general in the state of Montana, it's a big deal. There's a number of them that show up, all over the state, and they're really well attended, well participated in, both of people who are playing and people that are coming to watch and people that are just hanging out because it's a fun civic activity. Why do you think that is? Like, what makes 3-on-3 so viable in Montana?
Well, I just think it's anybody's game, right? I mean, you get 3 people together and they can go out and,
have some fun.
Yeah, have some fun.
Play.
You're not required to sign up for insurance or, get practice, if you want to win, you should go practice. But there's no sign-up fees and stuff and leagues.
And it's not 12 weeks or 18 weeks or
right,
whatever.
It's like a one-weekend commitment.
Go do it.
I just think, people get out there, they have some fun. It's kind of like, hitting balls on the range. You want to go out and throw a few shots out on the golf course, too, at some point. And,
there you go.
People shoot around a lot, but they want to see how they do against other competitions.
Want to go play.
Yeah.
Right? June 15th and 16th is the actual weekend that this is taking place in. But signups have already begun for this, and it's kind of staggered. So the earlier you sign up, the cheaper it is. And May 1st is one of those signups sort of cutoff spots. So you can get in the next 5-6 days right now, sign up for this thing, and you're going to save yourself some money in the process and still be ready to go mid-June when this actually comes around. So tell people where they can sign up at and how to go about this.
So it's pretty easy. I Googled today just to test it, 2019 3-on-3 Missoula, and we're the second hit on there. Garden City Shootout. So the easiest way is just to Google it, and it'll take you right to the link to register.
Cool.
It is at Southgate Mall. They're our marquee partner, and they're pretty awesome how they host us over there. So if you went to southgatemall.com, there's a registration link on there. Probably the other easy way is to just find us on Facebook, Garden City Shootout. And just along those lines, on Facebook, we do.
We're going to start a new website. I don't know what the content's going to be, but that sounds good. We'll just use all the misentries that people have done to get the traffic.
Absolutely,
here.
We should. That's a great idea. Garden City Shootout, however, on Facebook, and we do updates. During the tournament. That's how we post brackets. It's really, you should become a fan.
How many different different leagues or
divisions?
Okay, yeah,
good work,
divisions.
Coulter. Yeah, divisions. Yep, that's right.
You got co-ed, you got ages, you got heights. So how's it go?
So just like City Life, I mean, we are teen and family focused, and that's really our emphasis. Is we really want young players out there. We have our biggest divisions are 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. That's kind of the most people that come out and play. That's the most teams sign up for, and we love that because it is a family-friendly event. We have a lot of stuff out at the event, bounce houses and food vendors and, mascots sometimes and competitions, dribbling and that. So we start with a 2nd and 3rd grade division, and we go all the way through adult elite is what we call the adult division. That's kind of not the Ryan Bradshaw elite, but I mean, these are guys that are serious about playing basketball, and it's fun to watch. And, there's been some good games and some throwdown hammer dunks and that sort of thing in those games. So
the vaunted 6'1" and under division?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Where all the guys who are 6'3.5" or less play?
Yeah, that's right.
Like I got a bend in my back.
I wear these Kona shoes, and it gives me another 1.5 inches. I have to wear them when I'm playing basketball in the 6'1" and under, even though I'm like 6 foot and 3/4. Yeah, interestingly enough, 6'1" and under is just a great division. I mean, that's
always because you got all the sandbaggers.
That's fact.
I'm just like you. I'm about 6'1.5", 3/4.
Yeah.
I know I'm under 6'1", and everybody in the division is 3 inches taller than me every time. I love it.
Hey, that's all right. I was getting youth passes up at the ski area when I was 31 years old. Just I'm still in school. Here's my ID. I was in school, actually.
How many teams are you expecting?
That's hard to say.
Well, I guess we're going to help you get some teams
I'm
by
really
this
hoping,
interview
last
right?
year we really grew. A couple years ago, maybe 5 years ago, we only had 75 or 80 teams, and it hovered at around 75 to 90 teams for a while. I think last year we had over 120 teams.
Yeah.
We really want to return it to its former glory, which, when the YMCA was running it back in the day, there's 200-plus teams in it. And the first year we took it, it was still at 140 teams, but I just think there's a lot of factors in 3-on-3. Playing on the blacktop, it's a different game. 3-on-3 is a different game than in a gym playing 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a lot of kids playing AAU, and that affected it. Basketball camps are a much bigger thing, and that affected it. But ultimately, we're trying to put a great product out there, have a lot of great, we have great referees and just a great environment. So we're hoping to continue to grow it.
Yeah, no doubt. It has been a lot of fun, and it is growing, again, like you said, back over 120, which is great. And all the things that are out there, too, for people. Like, I remember my dad playing in 3-on-3 tournaments, and I wasn't playing in, and I don't know how excited I was to necessarily just go watch the thing happen. But like you said, with food vendors, with the bounce house, and the mall there. So there's plenty to do and go around. It's a really fun weekend. Just tell them about the City Life Center too, because again, I think this is a community asset that is maybe a little bit under appreciated, and that people don't still know about entirely in terms of all the things that you have there. But it's kind of tucked away a little bit over there by the fairgrounds. But again, a community center that has I mean, more to offer than you could imagine in that place. So tell us, the folks, some of the things that you got over there.
Yeah, you bet. So, we house 15 nonprofits in the building that serve teens and their families.
Kind of like upstairs, kind of the
the
offices
upstairs
and the
office
headquarters
area.
of that stuff, right?
Yep, you bet. And downstairs on the main level, we have a great new cafe. It's called the Life Cafe, and it serves burgers. And I mean, honestly, super great food. Burgers, chicken baskets, salads, really whatever you can think of on just a regular cafe kind of menu is there. And then he does catering as well. So we're really trying to help him get going too. The food is fantastic and it's really affordable. So, burgers $6, burger fries, so
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, okay? Because I got problems.
Well, it's interesting. I do like a whole eating thing for a month a year, and he made me like this chicken and asparagus and Brussels sprouts lunch the other day and only charged me $6.50. I mean, Randy knows how to cook, and the Life Cafe is pretty awesome. Yeah, it was dialed for sure. And we have the gym. The gym is really utilized by a lot of different groups: volleyball, basketball, a lot of pickleball going on in there, especially during the winter months. But we have team sports, kids sports in there. We have a teen center that's open every day after school. Specifically, Boys and Girls Club runs some programs out of our facility. They're a big partner of ours as well. They got some great programs that happen there. We have a basement that's got a indoor paintball arena. And if you've never paintballed indoors, it's a rubber ball. It stings when it hits you, but it hurts. Super fun.
But it's fun to hurt others.
And those are that's right. Friday nights 4 to 9, and really affordable, family event kind of activity to do. But all encompass, we run programs as well. Almost every night of the week, we have some teen program going on in our student center. Friday nights, Friday nights of the month, we run a program called After Dark, and we're just open for teenagers from 9 to midnight, and it's meant to be a place where kids can go, and it's like when there's no place to be, when there's no place to go, there's some place to be is our tagline, and that's kind of the idea behind it is it's pretty fun.
Why do you think that part's important?
Well, I think there's a lot of places that kids can go and get themselves into trouble. I also think there's a lot of places kids can go where they're around an environment that's not conducive to healthy decisions or healthy behavior. Yeah. Most areas where kids hang out on a Friday night, and don't get me wrong, like West Side is awesome. They're amazing and they're incredible people.
Had some wonderful nights.
Oh, they're amazing, and I love them. We partner with them well, and they support us. But having said that, there's kids that are around adults there, and there's no place really for teens per se in that's just designated for them, and that's what we provide. Yeah, that's different.
Well, it's an awesome facility. If you haven't been in there, no matter what who or whatever, kids otherwise, you should just go look to see what it is, because invariably you will have people that you'll be with, people that you're like, hey, this is a great thing. But from the paintball to the gym to the video games to just a place to be and food and all the other things, it's an awesome place. If you go to yfcmt.com, you can see all that stuff online as well. And the 3-on-3 tournament is, in no small part, I think, kind of a fundraiser for some of this stuff as well.
Absolutely. Right? It just helps to underwrite basically all, those programs that are all kind of included in that package deal. So it's certainly supporting a lot of great organizations.
Garden City 3-on-3, silver anniversary for the 25th time. The Southgate Mall on June 15th and 16th. You can go sign up now. You can go to the mall website. You can Google it and get your team together and go play. It's going to be a great weekend as always, and have the first early summer outdoor fun time down there doing that. Josh, as always, man, thanks for coming by. Great to see you.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me.
Josh Jones, boys and girls. Quick break. Golden State, not as great as Josh Jones last night. Houston, they were pretty good, though. They found a way to get it done. We'll do a little bit of basketball with you right after this. Hey, guess what? You want to have your summer be great after you go to the 3-on-3, maybe before you go to the 3-on-3, maybe bookending the 3-on-3 tournament. Make your dreams come true during the Marine Expo happening right now at Brett's RV and Marine. Go browse an entire selection, an awesome selection of boats in their 20,000 square foot indoor heated showroom and save big with incredible preseason pricing. Visit BrettsRV.com. That's BRETZRV.com to gear up for summer with fishing boats starting at $199 down and $199 a month, and surf boats starting at only $459 a month. Go to the Marine Expo only at Brett's RV and Marine and make this summer one to remember.
The Montana Club invites you to stop in for Club Cocktail Hour. Every day from 3 to 6, sip on $5 martinis. Get $1 off all wine and beer, including cool Montana micros. Enjoy $3 off all mouth-watering appetizers, or swing by Friday for Montini Night and perfectly mixed $5 top shelf martinis from 3 to close. It's time to relax at the Montana Club. Real Montana, real food on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Florence Coffee Company offers a variety of organic milk alternatives for your favorite beverage. Whether you have dietary needs or you just want to try something different, try our all-natural organic soy, coconut, or almond milks. You still get the smooth Florence coffee flavor every single time. Stop at any of our locations in Western Montana or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Alpine Touch is legendary around the state of Montana for providing delicious seasonings for every grilling occasion. Now, Alpine Touch offers so much more, from a savory new barbecue sauce to spicy pepper blends to tasty barbecue rubs. In addition to the classic, Alpine Touch has a variety of seasoning salts for whatever you need to spice up. Now that the holidays are over, Alpine Touch makes a perfect thank you gift to show your friends and relatives you love them. Alpine Touch, available at retail locations around Montana or online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Hi, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel
and Colter Nuanez
from Tutel Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio, from your very favorite Tutel Nuanez podcast, and now officially Gracious Mercy on television statewide.
That's right. We've been doing a radio show and a podcast since August of 2017, and now it's time for us to expand our reach into statewide television on SWX.
We're on SWX every weekday from 4 to 6 live on your televisions. It's available on channel 199 on Spectrum Cable or on 23.3 on your antenna television, and you can download the Watch SWX app and get us that way on your phones and devices as well.
And of course, we'll still be right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio from Missoula and the Bitterroot Valley. And as always, you can find the podcast, the live stream, and everything else you need, 1029ESPN.com.
Colter, do you think that we're spreading ourselves too thin? Are we going to saturate these people and they're just going to start hating us, the inevitable backlash of the great heights to which we have now attained?
No chance. Tutel Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com. Tutel and Nuanez. All guests join the show on the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studio on ESPN Radio in Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Houston won, Golden State lost, and that's the time we have for this segment.
Okay.
Here's what I want to say in this limited time, and we will come back to this again. When I wrote this up, I wrote Golden State lost. I did not write the Los Angeles Clippers won, because this narrative completely and totally surrounds the Golden State Warriors. And I didn't even, like, when I said it, I wasn't trying to make a point about it. It was just, normally you talk about such and such won, such and such beat this team, this and this and that. But when it was Golden State, I just went, the Warriors lost. Because that is the storyline of this whole thing. Them losing to the Los Angeles Clippers. And by the way, two guys off the bench scored 57 points between them for the LA Clippers. I mean, Lou Williams, of course. Like, I mean, him coming off the bench is just sort of, it's almost laughable. But I'll tell you what, give this team a ton of credit. They've been a lot of fun to watch, and I have enjoyed it very much. I still don't give them a snowball's chance in the series, but I'm I had no expectation or thought or that this could go 6 games, and it has.
What we saw last night was a little bit different. I talked about, like when the Rockets were playing up 3-0 in Utah, chance to close out a sweep. The Jazz showed great professional pride by not allowing a sweep to happen on their home court. They extended the series another game. Then they lost, as everybody expected them to do. But it's just a totally different dynamic going into the offseason. Even if you lose in the first round of the playoffs and you lose in 5 games, you lost handily. I just think it's a different mentality than when a sweep is completed on your home court. I mean, how's Detroit going to bounce back from giving up a 41-7 run on their home floor to lose to Milwaukee? Obviously, that gap is so wide already.
Yeah.
It's just not good for the psyche of your team. It's just not. Last night, what we saw was different, though. I put this on Twitter. Clippers not one bit scared of Golden State.
No.
Not one bit scared. And they were not playing like it was an elimination game. They were playing like, we're fully confident we're going to win this game.
Yeah. Not this game, this series.
The series.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, KD had 45, and he was on fire early and then late, and the Clippers were still able to outlast the Warriors. And, Draymond Green didn't play well again, didn't shoot well again. Sort of seemed like the liability, if there is one. Definitely the liability compared to the other 3 star players on the Warriors.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I don't think that the Clippers are going to win this series, but I will not be surprised if they push it to 7.
Okay.
And I will not be surprised if that then has ramifications down the road for the Warriors. They're getting worn a little bit in this series. I think that when you play an edgy and scrappy team like the Clippers, when you're a team that's like the Warriors that's had all the internal drama that they've had, it brings out the worst in you.
A little more of that stuff.
It brings out the worst in you.
Yeah.
And I just think watching Steve Kerr is a great microcosmic example of exactly what plagues the Warriors right now. Like Steve Kerr, he's waiting for this team to find their stride. They went in on a couple of Steve Kerr timeouts last night. He's like, guys, we haven't found our energy yet. Now would be a good time. We should do it now, guys.
Yeah.
And they just really couldn't. And I just think that with the way that they're constructed and just the way that they have had to navigate the last couple of years and all the pressure that comes with that and just the brewing tensions. And again, I don't think this is we want to make it about all this sort of personal drama and stuff. I just really think this comes down to when you spend every second with a group of other people, you just start to get tired of each other. And when you accentuate that times to the point where it's half of a decade, these guys are playing 20 extra games a year. They're playing 100-plus games. 4 years now going into their 5th year in a row. That's a lot of time. You start to nitpick stuff that's pretty inconsequential when it gets to that point, and I think that's what you're seeing. And then when you throw in an antagonist like Patrick Beverley, an absolutely annoying, unorthodox, but almost peerless scorer, Lou Williams. Lou Williams, when he gets downhill on you, he had 2 runners I can remember last night where he just got kind of the corner, and he just shot like a 17-foot one-handed floater off the glass from dead on, from straight on. Twice he did this. And you're like, is that a real shot? Is that a circus shot?
Yeah.
But it's like he meant to do that. He meant to make it, and he just fills it up so much. And I just think that when you're losing to a team you're not supposed to be losing to, it just makes all the things that is internally frustrating for you, it just makes them brew even more.
Totally. You're absolutely right. Well, we'll come back to this and also to the series. One other thing, if Denver wins tonight in San Antonio, the Golden State Clippers series will be the last remaining series in the West, the 1-8 series. So
and
from
is
a
there
physical
any
standpoint.
Is there any series going on in the East?
No. They've all wrapped
right,
up.
because everybody's through
They've
in
all
the East,
wrapped
right?
up.
The Raptors, the Bucks,
These are
the
last
76ers, and the Celtics are all through in the East, right?
Yeah, so imagine that, Golden State being the last team potentially.
And that's what I'm saying as far as ramifications. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know if it's going to be to their detriment that much, but it's just more miles on the tires.
On the other side, after this, we are going to bring to you the ESPN Roundtable with Oisin Shaffery and Jason Brown. Jason, the head coach, and Oisin Shaffery, one of 6 freshmen on the University of Montana men's tennis team. Great conversation with them, so we'll get to that right after this. Hey, Coulter and I had a great chance to go down to the Coeur d'Alene Golf Resort, stay in the hotel. Great stay that we had, play an outstanding round of golf. And Colter, I'll tell you what, the Coeur d'Alene Golf Resort, we've been fortunate enough to go there a couple of times now. There's just nothing like it. I mean, when you talk about the setting, when you look out there, we're very fortunate in Montana. We had a beautiful state that we live in, lots of spots. But I'll tell you what, Coeur d'Alene is a special spot, and where they have put the golf course on the lake like that, and there's some elevation to it. Don't worry, they got great golf carts. You don't have to walk it, okay? But you go up there and you get some great vistas, but just a spectacularly laid out course with, that is immaculate in every possible way. You go in, you get yourself a massage before the round. You hit the driving range, which is just Lake Coeur d'Alene. Don't worry, the balls float. They're not polluting the lake. In fact, they've taken great pains to ensure they do not pollute Lake Coeur d'Alene. They've revamped the floating green, the world's only floating green, to that very end significantly to make sure it's environmentally friendly. So very cool what they're doing over there. But it's an experience unlike any other to go and to play. And it's not merely a round of golf. It really is an experience, and to see and play on a course that is, has been prepared and had that sort of time, money, energy, thought put into it is different. And also, yes, playing with a caddy is nice. Go out there, find your ball for you, help you out, figure out some shots and all that kind of stuff. But a great time over there. CDAResort.com, where you go, CDAResort.com, stay in the hotel, play around a golf, Father's Day, birthday, etc. CDAResort.com. Have a great summer.
Hi, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel
and Colter Nuanez
from Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio, from your very favorite Tutel and Nuanez podcast, and now
on SWX.
We're on SWX every weekday from 4 to 6 live on your televisions. It's available on channel 199 on Spectrum Cable or on 23.3 on your antenna television. And you can download the Watch SWX app and get us that way on your phones and devices as well.
And of course, we'll still be right here, 102.9 ESPN Radio from Missoula and the Bitterroot Valley. And as always, you can find the podcast, the live stream, and everything else you need, 1029ESPN.com.
Colter, do you think that we're spreading ourselves too thin? Are we going to saturate these people and they're just going to start hating us, the inevitable backlash of the great heights to which we have now attained?
No chance. Tutel Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show.
It's time for the spring tire sale at Les Schwab. Save up to $200 depending on tire size and type on a set of 4 tires, including the Open Country AT2 and MT, some of our previous best sellers. Of course, you'll get the warranty we've stood behind for 65 years at no extra charge. And now you can book an appointment online at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Limited warranty conditions apply. For details, visit leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Hey folks, the best season of the year is upon us. That's right, it's tax return season, and there's one place to have the most fun and make that refund check stretch further than anywhere else: Selway Armory. Selway Armory has the largest selection of firearms, ammo, and accessories of anywhere around, and they have the expertise to go with it. It's not everywhere that you can shop local and save money, but Selway Armory will meet or beat any box store price, and your money stays in Montana. It's tax return time, so get more bang for your buck at Selway Armory. Visit online at selwayarmory.com. Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Some so-called sports bars, you spend so much time fighting to see the TV, you're better off just staying home. Others show the game, but a basket of stale rye chips is not exactly your idea of a good game grub. At the Desperado, you get front row seats to every single spring baseball and NASCAR event, plus all the spring NBA and NHL postseason action. And with juicy burgers, ice-cold brews, and the best wings in town, you'll leave the Desperado satisfied whether your team won or lost. The Desperado Sports Tavern, where the emphasis is sports, food, and good times, on South Russell, across from the Y.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Wanas, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Montana is getting closer to becoming one of the first states to legalize sports betting. Governor Steve Bullock is considering measures that would allow residents to wager on sports, while Indiana, Iowa lawmakers are also looking at approving their own version as early as next week. Barring a veto, these would be the first 3 states to approve sports betting this year, joining 6 others that moved quickly last year when the U.S. Supreme Court allowed it nationwide.
Shelby Dunwell and the Missoula Sentinel pitching staff shut out a Missoula Hellgate squad that hung 21 runs on Missoula Big Sky on Tuesday on the way to a 10-0 win for the Spartans over the Knights Tuesday night that helped the Sentinel team sew up the Missoula City Championship. Dunwell struck out 5 of the first 6 Knights and 6 overall. Cassidy Schweitzer went 3 of 4 with 2 RBI and a run scored as Sentinel closed the city championship sweep with a total advantage of 38-1 over Big Sky and Hellgate. The Spartans are now 8-2 overall and 5-0 in Western AA play. Hellgate 1-7 overall, 1-3 in Western AA play.
Mark Adder will become the next activities director for the Bozeman School District after spending nearly 3 decades at Colstrip. Beginning in July, Adder will replace retiring Jerry Reisig as AD for both of District 7's middle schools and Bozeman High School. He'll also be in charge of activities and athletics at Gallatin High, set to open in 2020. I said to Coulter before the show, we cannot come back at 5:08.
5:07:30.
Hi, boys and girls. Great to be with you. It's time for our ESPN Roundtable, one of our favorite features around here. It's Tutel Nuanez. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, you can check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotels. 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. We had the we enjoyed very much the opportunity to sit with these next 2 guys who you're going to hear from. Jason Brown is the head coach of the University of Montana men's tennis team, and Oisin Shaffery, who is a freshman on that team from Dublin, Ireland. Really good to have those guys on. Great story. We recorded this on Tuesday. They played this morning in the Big Sky Conference Championships. They had to upset, and you'll hear this, one of the top 2 seeds in the Big Sky in Southern Utah in the last match of the season to get into the Big Sky Conference Championships. Why is that important? Well, 29 in a row. That's why. That's the streak that the University of Montana men's tennis team has been on in terms of making it to the postseason, to the conference tournament, and they have done it again. So a huge, huge win for them. But a great conversation. I think you'll be really interested to see, not just for this team, but in general, how some of the football and basketball sports recruit, are perceived, where they got to go, how they got to do it, what it's like to play for those teams, and also, the international flavor of it, especially in tennis, which is significant. So we appreciate these guys coming in. Please enjoy the ESPN Roundtable.
Well, welcome to the ESPN Roundtable. This week's subjects: Grizz men's tennis, second-year head coach of the Montana men's tennis team, Jason Brown, and freshman at the University of Montana, Oisin Shaffery. Hello, guys. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Very happy to have you in here. Congratulations in order right off the bat. You took the entire regular season, but you did it and punched your ticket to, I believe this is the 30th consecutive Big Sky Conference Championship that the University of Montana tennis team has made it into. Is that right?
I might be 29.
29?
I have to have our fabulous SID, Eric Tabor, look that up. But either way, Big Sky Conference record, and seeing how he puts it in every article, there was a little extra pressure for me not to break that streak in year 2.
Well, we'll get into some specifics of this season in particular, but for those who have not been maybe tracking all the way, you had to win in the last match of the year against Southern Utah, who is one of the 2 best, has one of the 2 best records, one of the 2 top teams in the Big Sky Conference, and you did it emphatically, 6-1 in a make or break moment. What's it like to have that sort of pressure and also then to come through in that way?
Yeah, we knew it was a big game going into it. Really had to play well. Bit of pressure on us, but Jason would always he would never try and put too much pressure on us to the point where we'd start to get too nervous and not play well. But yeah, we came out really well. took care of the doubles point after having been like match point down, but then El Capitano stepped up and got it done there, and then just across the board in singles it was really positive, and we all just played really well, and that was that really.
Jason, regardless of it's 29 or 30 straight years, that's an impressive streak. You've been a part of the program both as a player, assistant coach for a long time. What has been the key elements to the consistency, always advancing to the postseason?
Well, I think Chris Nord did an amazing job of never having the culture break, that he kept these guys learning from each other and maintaining this sort of high expectation and a level that we've had several years that were close like this. It wasn't. I don't want this to sound like we're the 1 or 2 seed every year. We've had to fight our way in on a lot of occasions prior to me and in the last decade that I've been around. But just the idea that this is the level we're expected to play at, and I think these guys felt a little bit of that hey, we don't want to be the team that breaks this record either. And the future looks really bright with how young our squad is, being 2/3 freshmen. And I feel like if we were going to miss, it would have been this year. And I feel really, really excited about these guys as they move into next year and become upperclassmen. I think we've got a special group here.
The Big Sky Conference Tennis Championships are in Phoenix, Arizona, later this week. Thursday, I think things start down there. How important is it for the young kids, regardless of how successful they are or how well it goes, to experience that, Jason, as to be at the conference championship, to experience the heat of the desert in Phoenix in April, and also just to be in that environment, which is different than your match in, match out weeks during the regular season?
Oh, I think it's vital, and I think that what sort of set us up with this final match of the season being so important was the ups and downs you have being an underclassman versus, hey, this is our 4th trip to Cheney. We know what to expect. When you're doing all these things for the first time, the reactions have been a little more inconsistent. The effort has been fantastic, but you don't know what to expect nearly as much when you're 2/3 of the way through your first college athletic season, regardless of sport. That the getting just comfortable and familiar with the environment and what's expected and how your body's going to respond over these long training seasons. I think that's why going to conference is so important. That they'll get to see this second season in its full evolution, and next year when they're there, fully expecting. Not that we're not expecting to win it this year, but fully expecting that's maybe next year going in as a 1 or 2 seed and having that there'll be some knowledge that's passed on just with this trip.
We shouldn't talk about that part, the fact that you guys are a young team. What was your first collegiate season like? I mean, you're from halfway across the world, Dublin, Ireland, so...
Don't give it away yet. We haven't gotten there.
I think you already got it.
Don't give it away.
I mean, but just acclimating to America, to college tennis, to seeing new places like Cheney, Washington, which you probably never imagined you would be visiting or going to play tennis in. What was that whole experience like?
Well, life back home is completely different. Not just in the tennis sense, in all aspects. Like, grew up in a big town, Dublin's big city, capital of Ireland, about 1 million people there. So then coming to Missoula is quite a difference. People are different. Food portions are bigger, that kind of stuff. But and the tennis is different. I was big into sports growing up. Played a lot of team sports, soccer, Gaelic football. Played a little bit of rugby, but I felt like tennis was always missing something, like the team aspect. So coming here and playing college tennis, it really feels like you're part of a team, which I really missed because that's what you had when you're playing back home with like soccer and whatever. But it's nice getting out there for your pals, for your teammates, and wanting to win for them, and also for Jay Brown as well. So it's really been enjoyable.
Ocean, you're one of the freshmen that your coach was referring to as a very young class, so this is kind of your first run through this. Coulter kind of alluded to this, but also coming internationally, I think the United States is very, very unique in the way that school and sport is so inextricably linked at the college level. Like, I don't know that exists really in any other country in the world. And so what was it like to kind of get here and see how tied. Like you aren't playing for a tennis team and going to school. You're the University of Montana tennis team, and that's the way it is across the board. Is that new, and what is the perception of that for you?
Yeah, it's completely new. Like the idea of like a student athlete, it doesn't exist back in Ireland. Like you go to college and you represent your college in like whatever sport you play, but it's nowhere near the same. Like you feel like a bit of pride that you get to like represent your college. You get to wear the jersey or the shirt or whatever. But yeah, it's a completely new experience and one that I've really enjoyed. It's an honor really to play for University of Montana. I'm really enjoying it.
Jason, tennis has so much of an international feel even at the University of Montana. So when you're helping guys from a long ways away kind of get acclimated and you have a bunch of them all at once like you do this year, what's that process like?
This year we're incredibly blessed that we brought in 6 freshmen, and the way these guys have bonded together is I can't overstate it. They started out all sort of living separately, ended up they're in 2-3 bedroom rooms in Craig Hall, the 6 freshmen, every meal, training. Yeah, they're pretty inseparable. I've been calling them the Super Six. And yeah, they've done such a great job of forming a little team within the team just to support each other. And we have 3 upperclassmen, so we've kind of split the freshmen between 3 of them are in the lineup week in and week out. And they've done a great job supporting the 3 who are sort of battling, waiting in the wings a little bit. I think that you, and Oisín can allude to this, but I think they bonded nicely, that their cultures are fairly similar. For most of them, there's 2 Americans that I think they enjoyed, like went to Thanksgiving in Wenatchee, Washington, got a little taste of America there. But I think that you bonded really well with Milo Ben from New Zealand and Ed Pudney's from England. And although there's a little Irish-English rivalry that goes on every single day.
A little, huh?
Every day. Every day there's banter back and forth, but it's all in good fun. And I think these guys really, took their little pieces of home, and they put it into the team as well. And I get to learn, I say this every time I talk to anyone, I learn so much about not only their countries, but a lot more about America and how they see it through new eyes. And wow, a lot of things I end up appreciating, or things that maybe we wish are slightly different, but it's a learning experience for all of us. It goes beyond just sports, which is very is a huge blessing.
Jason Brown and Oisín Shaffery, how'd I do? Pretty good?
Yeah.
Close?
Yeah, that's pretty good,
Representatives of the Montana men's tennis team, head coach and freshman player with us on the ESPN Roundtable. Jason, I think people would be surprised to know that the men's tennis team has a $20 million recruiting budget annually. And so when you need to get international players, you just get on the private jet, you go, you tour around, you do the thing, 5-star hotels, and then you pick who it is that you want to come over. So it's very, very nice life that you got.
I think we need to whack 5 zeros off your number, and you got it exactly right. Maybe 6, I can't remember.
But it is interesting, right, because tennis is such an international game, and in fact is much more integrated into the sports cultures in far other countries than it is in the United States. And so that's one reason why you're able to find talent, kids that are in England, in New Zealand, in Ireland. But what's the process like to try and locate those kids, create a conversation, say, hey, this is a great idea. Yes, Missoula, you'll love it. Don't worry. Dublin and Missoula, they're almost the same. It's fine. And so how does that go? Where do you find these kids, and how does that recruiting happen?
I think the best way to do this is I'll let Oisín kind of give his story a little bit about how it worked for him, and then I can give an overview of how it works, kind of, because your process was similar in a lot of ways to many of the guys on the team, but they all kind of have their own unique story. But go ahead.
So went through an agency, Sarah Borwell. She's a really good lady, did a really good job. But there was a few Irish connections here already at the University of Montana. Peter Mima Fleming was here for 4 years, and I was told that he really enjoyed it and getting on well. And then Emer Moore was here for a bit, and she was really enjoying it. So I reached out to Peter, got his email, and I was like, Peter, I'm looking to go to the States, fall of 2018. And Mr. Arno, you could put me in contact with the head coach, and he gave me Jay Brown's email. Send him an email, and then that was it. Really, from day one, I kind of knew in the back of my mind that I was gonna come here.
But you had already determined, like previous, that hey, first of all, I want to go to the United States, or I want to go international, and also that you wanted to play tennis. Like you're aware. So where did that even start? I mean, obviously you're a tennis player, you're in school and so forth, but where you're like, hey, I want to go to the U.S. and play tennis. How did that occur to you?
Yeah, so kind of my second last year in secondary school, which is the equivalent of high school over here, I was keeping the tennis going, still playing a lot of tennis, really enjoying it, but I wasn't good enough to go pro, so that was never really in my mind. And then I was thinking, how can I continue to play tennis while furthering my academics? And it's become quite a big thing now to travel to the States and to play college tennis. And it's become quite popular throughout Ireland. So I was emailing guys from back home, asking them how their experience was and what they think I should do. And everyone I talked to said they really enjoyed it. Best 4 years of their lives. So I thought, geez, why not? Give it a go. And it was really from then, like I was emailing places, and then, got in contact with Jason, and that was it really. I remember, like, our first phone call, we were on the phone for maybe like 40 minutes. First 5 minutes was about tennis, and then it was just like, oh yeah, how's it going? Like, what's going on really?
Yeah, his situation is one of the segues, one of the pathways, I should say, that works really well for international students to get here. Having someone previous, I believe you shared a coach briefly with Peter, and he sort of set this up, and then from there it goes into I'm going to go ahead and make you feel real good here, but number one first recruiting phone call I've ever had. We hit it off right away, like I said. Oh, this is, he was
the first recruiting phone call you ever had?
No, he's the very best. The very best one. No, definitely not the first or the last. But so far he's Oisin gets the title,
the gold star.
I'm telling you, and just sort of said all the right things. Understood that it was a team sport. Loved that aspect of it. A lot of tennis players grow up in really sort of, selfish, individual. It's an individual sport, and I really have stressed looking for guys who want that. It's missing the team aspect and want that part of it, because you do have to make sacrifices that it's not all about you. The training isn't completely focused on your needs every day, but we obviously try to fit that in. The rest of the guys who came, of the 6, 3 visited prior. We did fly Ludwig Hallgren, his younger brother Pontus. Knew his brother was getting on really well here. Loved Missoula. I'd kind of gotten to know him and actually never recruited him until finally he said, are you going to recruit me? And I said, well, I didn't think you'd want to come here because your brother was here. And he's like, well, he loves it so much, I think I would. And again, Missoula does its magic when they get here. We haven't ever had it. We've never had anyone not sign if they have come. A little more of a mystery for Oisin, where he gets to sort of figure it out on the fly a little bit. But it helps having people and trust sort of give you the thumbs up on our culture here, the city, the university, and hopefully we try to do a really good job. I know a lot of college tennis coaches overstate a lot of things and have disappointment when international kids come, and I really try to, I try not to tell them we don't have winter. I try to, I try to make sure they understand that we have a 15-minute drive out to our indoor practice facility, and really give them this sort of straight story on things. And generally, I feel like Missoula does its job in that they're a little more, they're ecstatic that it's better than they thought it would be, almost always.
It's such an interesting dynamic, though, where you're talking about a culture in Ireland of kids, of secondary school guys that are like, hey man, this is my ticket. Like, I can go both to school and to travel and to play, but it's just got to be the United States. And so you're fielding calls rather than making calls, Jason. Like, you're the one at times anyways,
little of both,
right?
Little of both, definitely.
But that's such an interesting dynamic, and maybe unique to tennis, that
guys are seeing that or understanding that and going, yeah, this, Peter's done it. I don't know him yet, but I know that he did this thing, and I want to go find that. So if that becomes something that's sort of important to you, you think you want to do, like that's the pathway, and you sort of search that out. So I think that's unique. It seems to me that's interesting.
Yeah. It's a bit weird for like other sports. It wouldn't really be the same as you're saying. Like it's kind of strictly for tennis. Like soccer, there's a few lads that'll come over. Rugby, not so much for some reason. Even though there's a bit of a market for it, you could come over, but it's really big for the tennis, because tennis in Ireland, the level is just, the standard's just not that high. We don't produce that many tennis players that are going to make it as a pro and that are going to make a living from it. So the very top tennis players will always consider coming to America, and because they hear so many good things of it, it just kind of happens, and that's really how I came over here.
What's been your favorite part about Missoula, America? What's been some of the surprising parts?
The best part would probably be getting to know my team, especially the fact that there's 5 other freshmen. We're like a little like family within the like whole team as well. Like we get on all so well. I was here on the 15th of August, I believe, like very early, like before classes start.
With his whole family.
With the whole family.
Oh, wow. It was excellent.
Yeah, and Milo Ben, who's another freshman, was here. He was here the day after me, so then spent a lot of time with just me and him, so I got on really well with him and had like a very good connection with him ever since. And then the other lads came along as well, and at the beginning, Ed Pudney's from Great Britain, so it was kind of slow to talk to him, but he's come around, and he's such a good lad. Like really enjoy hanging around with him, and same goes for all the other lads. A brilliant group of lads, and I'm just so lucky to get such a nice group of lads to hang out with.
Jason, what's the international flavor of the men's tennis team has historically been very high? Is that true around the Big Sky Conference? Is there a lot of international players throughout the conference, or is it even at a higher level at the University of Montana?
I think we're exactly on par. Where there's usually a couple of Americans, and then I would say generally somewhere in that sort of 2/3, 3/4 international. And it's not for a lack of trying to recruit American kids. I think that sometimes there's been some blowback a little bit, or why don't you recruit Montana kids? And I made a commitment. I went to every state tournament last year. I made a commitment. If there's a Montana kid who can play at the Division I level, they're going to be a Grizzly. I promise you. And when you recruit a kid from Southern California or Texas or Florida, and you tell them to come to Montana, you might as well say the North Pole. I mean, there's the coast soaks up the best American kids.
Yeah.
So, in all honesty, if a Sheen grew up somewhere in outside Atlanta, he would never be here. He would have probably went to North Florida,
right.
or where
whatever.
Yeah. But because he was from Ireland, and our weather, although this year didn't prove it, but our weather can't be too much worse than the windy rain you get daily.
Well, anything's better than just spitting rain for 350 days a year. see the sun like 5 days a year.
Yeah.
It's like 15 degrees Celsius. That's our peak.
So the Missoula gray winter, that doesn't get you down. You're used to that.
No, but it was cold.
It was cold.
No, like never experienced anything like it before. Like Ireland's because it's surrounded by like the sea, it keeps it warm in the winter and then cool in the summer. So anything in the negative, like below 0 degrees Celsius, be freezing. So it was pretty cold, to say the least.
We did get to travel. We got to break it up a little bit, which not necessarily traveling to balmy destinations, but we got to travel. We jumped down to Denver, and somehow it was freezing here, and it was 50 degrees there and sunny, and so even breaking it up a little bit, makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
University of Montana men's tennis player, freshman Oisin Shaffery from Dublin, Ireland, and head men's tennis coach Jason Brown joining us on the ESPN Roundtable. And Jason, you're from Conrad, Montana originally, played at the University of Montana, assistant coach. You're ingrained all the way, and now in your second year as the head coach there. you've obviously spent a lot of time around a lot of international kids going all the way back, because that's part of, as we've talked about, what tennis is, sort of attracts here. But as a head coach, what do you need to do, or how do you go about attempting to, do the team building aspects, particularly with kids that are coming from all different parts of the globe? You're in the situation where clearly the kids that you got now they're going to build some of that on their own and have gotten along really, really well, but also, integrating them into what life is like in the U.S. and Missoula, Montana, in addition to, the tennis aspect of what it is that you're doing and trying to build that culture.
That's a great question. I think that you end up, there's so many unknown factors when you're talking about an international kid. Even if you do talk on the phone and think like, wow, they sound really great, that you end up having to talk to a lot of trusted sources. I've really taken to interviewing parents now and getting sort of the idea. And generally, international parents have been absolutely phenomenal, lovely people, very excited that their son is sort of being taken care of and has landed in a good community. And I've gotten some of the best feedback ever from Machine's dad, who came over and I met him and is actually going to be at our conference tournament with one of your younger brothers, which is, to make the flight from Dublin to Phoenix kind of shows a little bit of the commitment the parents make and still having that good active involvement. Again, like I spoke of a little, the concept that we want guys who want the team aspect. And college tennis now isn't a holdback from the pros. They've kind of restructured pro tennis a little bit, and the lower levels of pro tennis they've kind of tried to weed out. And coming to college, even for guys who know they're going to turn professional, has become this great source of get an education, free coaching, free travel, free shoes, free string. Like, it ends up being this great thing that it doesn't limit their ability to turn pro afterwards. And so we're okay with guys coming in thinking like, hey, I want to try this at the next level. What can I do? Which is obviously makes our team better as well. So that's kind of a cool aspect as well.
We talk so much football and basketball on ESPN Radio. We're not alone. Around the country, those are the talking points. Everybody's talking about the NFL, talking about the NBA, and in college sports too. There's so much controversy right now in big-time college football, big-time college basketball, so much toxicity. We talk about this all the time now. There's this transfer portal. Everybody's jumping into the transfer portal. You got, I think 45% of men's basketball players last year declared for a transfer. Everybody seems like they're up in arms, or they're malcontent or whatever. It seems like you guys have so much of the opposite of that. You guys have like this great team chemistry. You guys just won this prestigious award last night at the University of Montana Awards Banquet. You guys have the highest GPA of any team on campus. It just seems like there's so much more harmony, and it's almost like the opposite of what we're seeing at some of the other men's sports at the collegiate level. Is that common, or is this uncommon, what the level of chemistry and continuity you guys have?
Well, I'm going to speak briefly on the fact that I think that we've just been really lucky to have not only great student athletes come into our program, but they've had really good mentorship from above. Even last year, we had 3 all-time greats graduate. Well, actually, I shouldn't say graduate. They finished their playing career and had a semester left. And the 3 of them, Yannick Schmidl, Victor Casadoval, are the 1 and 2 all-time win leaders for Grizz tennis, and another Spanish player named Nacho Torina, and they stayed to finish their degree in the fall semester. And all, like most guys who finish up their college career, like, oh, we'll be at practice and we'll help you out. The 3 of them didn't miss a single practice, traveled on the road with us to coach, and really, Ashin can speak to this a little bit more from his perspective, but I thought they just did an amazing job of showing this is what you get if you put the effort and your passion into this in this 4 years. And, those are 3 just dynamic young men who are going to go on to great success. I thought they did a great job instilling sort of what we expect and putting high expectations on these guys, and then they just live up to it.
Yeah, it felt like they were almost like older brothers in that sense. They'd show us the right path. They chose the right routines and habits to get into, and they were really important to us, like especially the 6 freshmen who we don't really have a clue what's going on. We come here So having those older lads to lead us in that sense was really, really, like, we really appreciate it.
Jason, you're in your second year. You had, as head coach, well, let's be clear, you've been here a long time at the University of Montana, but taking over for Coach Nord, I know that was there's some pressure as well as an honor to be able to do that, and you were great last year. But what's it like now to have this be your recruiting class? These are the kids, you know, that you went and found and got and kind of got together. And is there a level of, I don't know if ownership is the right word, but excitement maybe for you personally about the process now that you are into, you know, year 2 of this thing and the program, you know, you have taken the reins now and are running with this?
Yeah, there definitely is, a little bit of pride in the fact that these are my guys and the fact they've done so well in the classroom. And although we did have a bit of an up and down year, I think we learned a lot as a team. And the fact they brought it together at the end, I might not be sitting here for the round table if they didn't. But I also, like, you know, it would be a different – we keep scoring sports for a reason, right. You know? And there is – it's 1 or 0 sometimes. And if you get the 1, then things are good. And we want that to be the case. We don't want to remove that pressure. But, I've really enjoyed the recruiting process. It was a lot more strenuous than this year, where we're just we wrapped up our recruiting class for 2019 in November, and a lot less. Now bringing 1 or 2 in is going to feel like the easiest thing in the world to do compared to bringing in 6, but I'm couldn't be happier with who we brought in and how well they represent and travel and court and classroom represent the University of Montana. These guys get so many compliments. We talk a lot about, I think a big thing that we kind of put a high precedent on is just being nice, good citizens, that you look people in the eye and say hello when you pass them in the hallways in the athletic department, and really make an effort. And these guys with the accents too, it goes a long ways.
It's great radio, I can tell you. Oisin, last question for me on this. I got to ask everybody that comes in here from outside of the U.S., you can't answer the weather here, okay? What's the weirdest thing about the United States? Like when you get here and you go, this is real, this is regular. What's the biggest sort of oddity about this place to you?
I have to think. Probably the biggest thing would be the accent and the different terms, different little lingo that's used throughout the States. Like calling, for example, like we call the trash can a bin, like. And then we call the boot of a car, you guys call it the trunk or something?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. And then that's like throughout the entire language. There's loads of little small things. And it would actually take a while to understand sometimes what the 2 American fellas are talking about on the team. And sometimes you're smiling and nodding, all right, cheers, lads. That's fine. But, and it's actually kind of similar with the international lads, because the New Zealand fella, sometimes he just starts talking and no one really knows what he's saying. Especially in the fall. Now, since he's been here for so long, he's kind of like ditched his whole little lingo. But it was tough at the beginning.
Well, yeah, especially when we call it an accent over the eye and you call it a male parent, a father. That's a very difficult one to try and understand. So, yes.
I did think of funny, speaking of the Milo Ben from New Zealand, he was very concerned on one of our first road trips that they were going to put Red Robin out of business with the unlimited drinks and unlimited fries. He was seriously concerned about it. He's like, how can they make it? There's no chance they're going to be out of business.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the margins are a little bigger than what you think, I can tell you, in the food industry. That is for sure.
Well, the University of Montana men's tennis team opens up the Big Sky Conference tournament 9 a.m. Thursday morning. And it should be a little cooler than what it will get to in Phoenix, Arizona. But ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. This was awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it.
There you go. Oisin Shaffery and Jason Brown. Our thanks to them for joining us. By the way, the UM men's tennis team did fall this morning to Portland State, 4-2. 4-2 in their Big Sky Conference opener, and so their season has come to an end. But again, making that run in a really young and really talented team. I know that Jason Brown's very optimistic about the future and with Oisin Shaffery and the rest of that incoming class. But our thanks to them. It's the ESPN Roundtable. You can listen to that anytime you would like. You can share it, all of them, up at SkylineSportsMT.com, part of the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series. And it is brought to us by Paradise Falls. Colt, are you sitting back there?
Yeah, this is great technology.
Maybe this is what we should do now. You just be in the back room, and then I'll sit out here, and we'll just, it'll be just like you and Tommy hanging out.
Single shot on your beautiful face. Nobody has to see my fat head. Beauty.
I mean, just giving into every arrogant idea that I ever had. Yeah, get that thing right on me. There you go. Coulter, Paradise Falls, they bring us the ESPN Roundtable each and every week. Great spot. Like going down there on the south side of town. Not a lot of options over that way. It's a great spot at 3621 Brook Street to sit. Bunch of different areas. There's a gazebo. There's an outdoor. There's indoor. You got a bunch of TVs, 18 rotating draft handles. Great place to watch, eat, drink, and enjoy.
If you hit it tonight, you could do the NFL draft, pick from some of those 18 beers on 30 or more big screen TVs. And if you stay all the way through the NFL draft, you'll hit the late happy hour as well. Monday through Thursday, 9 to 11. Late happy hour, Paradise Falls. $3 draft beers, half-price appetizers, cocktail specials, all the way around. Great place. Open 7 a.m. to midnight, 3621 Brook Street, Paradise Falls, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, pump it up, pump it up.
Stop by today at Town Pump. Twisted Tea 12 packs now only $13.99. And don't forget to grab a couple of bags of Lay's XXL chips, 2 for only $6. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up. Oh yeah.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Do you want $3 beers?
You're crazy!
Of course you do. Who doesn't want a $3 beer? For $3 microbrews and much more, go check out one of the best late happy hours in town at Paradise Falls, Sunday through Thursday from 9 until 11. Paradise Falls has $3 microbrews along with $6 apps, $2 domestics, and more. If you're in the mood for an evening cocktail or you just want to grab a beer, go to 3621 Brook Street, Sunday through Thursday, 9 until 11 to enjoy the best late happy hour at Paradise Falls.
I'm not crazy, I'm just thirsty.
More bedrooms, a big yard, better commute. Whatever your reason to buy a new home, it's the right reason. In a tough housing market, the smartest thing you can do is pre-qualify for a loan before you start looking. Farmer State Bank makes it easier than ever to start the loan process with online checklists, forms, and calculators. Your dream home is out there. Get started today at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Lithia Ford of Missoula is proud to announce that they have donated a new Ford Transit van to the Boys and Girls Club of Missoula County. This marks the club's first new 15-passenger van. Without safe and reliable transportation, the 440 youth the club serves every year would not be able to access their 5 after-school clubhouses or 9-week summer club. It's groups like this that make a significant difference in our community, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is proud to be a partner in their effort. Be sure to give them a good honk and a friendly wave when you see them.
Hey, Tutela Nuanez is on from 4 to 6 every afternoon on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
We also know that not everybody can listen to all 2 hours every single day.
Well, they should, Coulter. I mean, what else do you have to do? Take off work early, drive home slow, and sit in your driveway for 70 minutes to get the entire show.
Here's the thing. We've made it easy for everybody to listen to the show every single day whenever it's convenient for them by podcasting every show.
Well, that's nice of us.
You can listen to the full Tutela Nuanez every single day on iTunes, the TuneIn Radio app, Spotify, and Podbean. Tutela Nuanez, the podcast, available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel.
Tutela Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
Hi, how you doing? Good, glad to hear it. Tutela Nuanez. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for spending some time with us on your radios.
I am having a wonderful day. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I like this new setup. This is fun. Coulter sitting in the back. If you're wondering where Coulter is, he's back there working away, fixing my
He said,
mistake.
Tommy, this is so much better than sitting in that studio. I said, I know.
Yeah. Back in the windowless room, the dungeon. It's like Coulter's house. If you were looking for anything on the stream, you can check it out, 1029ESPN.com. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. I want to talk a little bit of basketball with you because we didn't have a ton of time. We got a short segment here, so we got to get through it. But Houston getting the better of the Utah Jazz. There's a lot that could be said. Utah lost by, I think, 3 or 4 in Game 3. And then in Game 5, tie ball game, an air ball on a corner 3 by Ricky Rubio, and then 2 consecutive just straight turnover strip, awful offensive possessions down the stretch. Give the Rockets credit. They held the Jazz to, I think, 93 points. I think it was 193 the final. Under 24% from beyond the arc, 37% or something like that from the field. But this series could have been very different. It wasn't. The thing you said to me, I think it was yesterday or earlier this week, Donovan Mitchell can't be your best player if you're going to win.
Right now.
That's it. Because Donovan Mitchell, watching him again, the athleticism on him is just otherworldly, and he is really good, but he's going to get better. He's going to get better.
Maybe.
No, he will. I think he will.
I don't know, man. That's the thing. We always think it's a guarantee in sports that everybody's going to get better, and it's not necessarily true. I believe he will.
Okay.
But it's just not a guarantee.
But I guess the point is,
who would have ever thought that Derrick Rose would be a completely irrelevant player?
Well, and I mean, that's a whole different thing, though, too. I mean, obviously, there's always the injury caveat. But
I mean, once upon a time, Gilbert Arenas was a first-team All-League NBA player. Mm-hmm. Think about how far he fell. I mean, it just happens. It's not necessarily all injuries.
You're right. That's right.
But Donovan Mitchell has tremendous upside in the fact that he is one of the great athletes in the league and also one of the best shooters in the league. It's a good combination to have in the modern-day NBA.
The East went so chalk. We sat here and said, like, there's 4 good teams in the East, and they're all the top 4 seeds, and they're all going to win, and they all won. And so I'm looking forward to 76ers Toronto and Milwaukee Boston. I think those are going to be really interesting series, really fun series. And I think the longest any of those series went with 5 games, right? And so they're going to have some rest before they get into this next, series here. But with Houston doing what they did and dispatching of Utah in 5 games, do you feel any differently about the series that's coming, even if Golden State wins it, tomorrow night or whatever? That they lost twice to the Clippers. It took them 6 games, best case scenario, to move on to play Houston. Does that make you feel differently about that series?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the Western Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. The winner of that series wins the West.
Okay, but you expect Golden State to win that, do you not?
No. I don't expect Golden State to win it. I still think Golden State's the slight favorite to come out of the West, but I don't necessarily think it's a foregone conclusion.
Well, but. Okay, I mean, maybe expect where you're like.
I mean, I'm not ready to make a prediction on it yet, but I think that the Rockets have a very legitimate chance to beat the Warriors.
Okay.
I think they will? I'm not sure, but not yet. Got to see it.
We'll take a quick break. We may come back with some more NHL also. We're getting you set for the NFL draft, which is just 10 minutes away from Nashville. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN Radio. Hey, make your summertime dreams come true during the Marine Expo happening right now at Brett's RV and Marine. Go browse an awesome selection in their 20,000-square-foot indoor heated showroom and save big with incredible preseason pricing. Visit BrettsRV.com to gear up for summer with fishing boats starting at $199 down and $199 a month, and surf boats starting at only $459 a month. Go to the Marine Expo, only at Brett's RV and Marine, and make this summer one to remember.
Hey, Tutela Nuanez is on from 4 to 6 every afternoon on 1029 ESPN Radio.
We also know that not everybody can listen to all 2 hours every single day.
Well, they should, Coulter. I mean, what else do you have to do? Take off work early, drive home slow, and sit in your driveway for 70 minutes to get the entire show.
Here's the thing. We've made it easy for everybody to listen to the show every single day whenever it's convenient for them by podcasting every show.
Well, that's nice of us.
You can listen to the full Tutela Nuanez every single day on iTunes, the TuneIn Radio app, Spotify, and Podbean. Tutela Nuanez, the podcast, available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Alpine Touch is legendary around the state of Montana for providing delicious seasonings for every grilling occasion. Now, Alpine Touch offers so much more, from a savory new barbecue sauce to spicy pepper blends to tasty barbecue rubs. In addition to the classic, Alpine Touch has a variety of seasoning salts for whatever you need to spice up. Now that the holidays are over, Alpine Touch makes a perfect thank you gift to show your friends and relatives you love them. Alpine Touch, available at retail locations around Montana or online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
When you buy local, your dollars stay local. But did you know when you save local, your dollars stay local too? When you invest your savings dollars at a local community bank like Opportunity Bank of Montana, you're helping Montana families grow and thrive. Start saving with great rates on money market accounts and competitive CD specials at Opportunity Bank of Montana. You get a great rate on your savings and the knowledge those dollars are making a difference in your community. Lock in a great rate today at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
More than 60 years ago, R.J. Rangich opened up Rangich Brothers with one thing in mind: quality and family tradition. Those family traditions continue today and live through our family, staff, and those who buy our RVs. So whether your travels include the shores of Flathead, Glacier Peaks, Yellowstone Geysers, or the hidden gems in between, jump into Jayco and experience the best freedom you and your family will ever know. Only where a handshake means something. Rangich Brothers RV Center.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Welcome back, bud.
It's like Kramer on Seinfeld.
Slide in, huh?
Well, I was just so excited because Tommy added my favorite song back to the rotation.
This one?
Love it.
Good track. Our Lady Peace?
Something like that. Is that right, Tommy? Who sings it?
It's a weird name. Hang on. It's Our Lady Peace.
Good job, Gus.
I'm here for you as the resident experiencer of the 90s in the group. You two were alive, but not much was registered.
That's not true.
Not much registers now. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Aren't you both like the same age?
No.
Coulter's
Ryan's
much
like
older
8
than me.
years older than I am.
Really?
You didn't know that?
No, this is completely baffling and mind-bending.
So I grew
to
up
me.
with Ryan's brother my
How
whole
little
life.
have
but
you asked us about our lives?
Yeah,
that you
right.
Don't know
I grew up with Ryan's brother my whole life. Ryan moved away when we were like in second grade. He was just like a myth.
8th grade.
I never
Out
knew.
here.
I didn't actually
I'm good.
see him in real life until 3 years ago.
So the fact that you're reading dad jokes is like that much more disgusting and awesome all at the same time, Ryan.
Well, I mean, he has 3 children and he's 40, so of course he should be reading dad jokes.
I was working with a couple engineers in your studio the other day, and we needed a notepad to write down some notes, and we used the back of a dad joke sheet, and it became the greatest moment in Engineer Mark's life in all of time.
I had a dream that I was a muffler last night. I woke up exhausted. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you would like to listen to this show again, and if you've only gotten this small sample, why wouldn't you? You can check it out on the podcast, which is available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Coulter, we got 90 seconds. NFL draft. Let's do it. Top 3. We both got Kyler Murray because everybody's got Kyler Murray. Who's going to San Francisco?
I think San Francisco is going to pull a fast one. I think that the Nick Bosa backlash that we have avoided talking about, kudos to us, is real. I don't really know if you can just be a right winger on Twitter and then go get drafted by the 49ers, but they do need a pass rusher. I think they're going to pull a fast one and go with Josh Allen.
You think they're going to go with Josh Allen? Okay. Number 3.
And then I think that the Jets. I think the Jets will pick Bosa.
Okay. So Allen, Bosa. Okay. That's interesting. Now, reports are that the Arizona Cardinals have been in touch with Nick Bosa still about going number 1 overall. Obviously, no guarantee there. And also, Quinnen Williams, very high on a lot of draft boards. He is one of the 3 guys reportedly that is, quote-unquote, still in the mix for a first overall selection, though, again.
I think this is the pivotal moment of this draft is going to come with the Raiders because if 2 D linemen go before then, the Raiders are going to get a tremendous player because they're going to get either Quinnen Williams, Josh Allen, or Nick Bosa.
Well, yeah.
But there could be just so many dominoes that fall here, especially if there's a surprise pick that isn't one of those 3 defensive linemen, because then everybody's draft board is going to get reshuffled because you got to take one of those 3 guys if they're up for you.
A lot of people got Ed Oliver going to the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one too because Gruden loves guys like Ed Oliver.
He does. Boys and girls, enjoy the draft on ESPN Radio. Round 1 tonight, 2 and 3 tomorrow. We'll go through all of it then. Have a wonderful evening, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana. Hi, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel
and Colter Nuanez
from Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio, from your very favorite Tutel and Nuanez podcast, and now officially Gracious Mercy on television statewide.
That's right. We've been doing a radio show and a podcast since August of 2017, and now it's time for us to expand our reach